I'm sorry to Patrick haters, but Patrick Zweig is the heart of this movie and the entire reason why Tashi and Art are a thing. Stay with me. Listen, these are two of the most important scenes of the movie, and I think it's absolutely crucial that they center around Patrick. The entire film is about the importance of passion and purpose in life, and Patrick is the passion. I think it's really interesting that we don't know a whole lot about Patrick other than his context and relationships to these two. He has a very kind of orbital role in this film where he kind of comes in and out of their lives, and they really do seem to be the center of his universe. His universe seems to be not very bright outside of them. I also think it's interesting that a lot of people assume that Patrick didn't have any real feelings for Tashi, but the only person who ever says that is Art, who is Patrick's romantic competitor. And I honestly have a lot of sympathy for Patrick. We are shown explicitly how genuine and authentic and caring he is in his relationship with Art. He truly loves him. And we are shown absolutely no evidence that he is the boyfriend to Tashi that Art suggests consistently that he is. The only person in this movie that says that Patrick doesn't love Tashi is Art. And it's obviously very intentional because the use of perspective and time in this movie is masterfully done to weave this kind of mystery and uncertainty and ambiguity in terms of who's actually in the right. But I think it's a little bit of a shame that we don't get to see any of Patrick's perspective after he's thrown out by Tashi and Art. Like, that has to be an incredibly low point for him. And we see that his life does not seem to get any better after that point. And I think the reason why both Art and Tashi so violently push Patrick out of their lives is because he forces them to confront parts of themselves that they are not yet comfortable with. And it honestly makes sense that Tashi would have such an extreme reaction because she, after her injury, is at the lowest point in her life. This is recalibrating her life in a way that she could never have accounted for. She structured her entire life, her entire identity around being a tennis prodigy. So when that is so horrifically stripped from her, it's absolutely normal that she would have a very extreme reaction. But from Patrick's perspective, it's, I think, also really, really tragic. Not as tragic, but still really tragic. He's a guy who got into a fight with his girlfriend and she hurt his feelings. Like, they had a real fight that made him feel unimportant to her, that made him feel like she didn't actually care about him, that made him feel like she just wanted a fan and not someone to actually love her, to actually care about her, which again, after the Art conversation of him telling her, I don't think she's taking it seriously, absolutely got into his head. And it's normal that, like, you wouldn't go to your partner's, little college match because you're frustrated with them. But he ran to her side after, and ordinarily just not happening to be there for something like this happening shouldn't be like a relationship ending offense. But because he was too emotional to get over it and just go support her and be the fan that she insinuated was all he was to her, he's thrust out of her life and Art's life. And the truth is, Patrick never treated Tashi like an idea, like a concept, like a golden idol, like Art did. Patrick was never going to let Tashi get away with treating him like shit just because she was special. And that was something that Tashi needed to confront. That was something that in her youth, Tashi could have grown from and become a better person, become a more fully self-actualized adult. But because she was able to push Patrick away, and because Art slid into her life and said, I will let you play the fantasy. You can be my goddess. You can be my queen. You can boss me around. You can be the star that you were always meant to be to the public, to me, to your husband. That's not a healthy relationship. That is enabling, manipulative, not normal. And similarly, Patrick and Art's relationship was structured the same way. Patrick and Art always had this underlying tension, this unspoken desire, and they were also perfectly matched, perfect opposites on the court. They were coined fire and ice. As the film so expertly uses tennis as a metaphor for sex, these two had something on the court that Art was never able to recapture with anyone else. But Art, instead of taking any opportunity to confront the underlying nature of his relationship with Patrick, took the first opportunity to get him out of his life and stop being forced to confront that part of himself. And as a consequence, Tashi and Art found consolation prizes in each other. And they found people who would allow them to run from their insecurities and run from the parts of themselves that they didn't want to confront and enable each other's worst habits. Art tries to become the tennis prodigy that Tashi was always meant to be so that Tashi could live through him. And Tashi tries to give him the perfect wife and family so that he can feel confident in his identity. Very quickly, the passion and the purpose drains from their life until Patrick shows up to remind them, how they can feel, how life can make them feel. I know there have been a lot of complaints about the fact that like this movie doesn't dwell on these moments of like uncertainty, like Tashi's moment under the tree after her injury, which even though we all knew it was coming from the trailers, was still an absolutely devastating moment to have to confront. Like that is such a horrifying thing to see ripped from a person, like an entire life built around being a tennis prodigy, truly being special, and then having it all ripped away is something horrifying to see. But I think that Art and Patrick's stories have their own tragedies as well that we're similarly not allowed to dwell on, because the point of the movie is not dwelling in these moments, it's finding a way through. Art was always going to try to let Tashi live her dreams through him, but that's never going to be satisfying to Tashi. Tashi has to find a way to create a new identity for herself post-injury, which is a very difficult, devastating, hard thing to do, but it's the only way to live a fully satisfied life. She can never win the championships that Art would win for her. And that's why they need Patrick, to bring them back to reality and help them find their passion in every single way. Many, many different ways, over and over again.